Let's take a trip to Philly. You may know it for the Liberty Bell, the signing of the Declaration of Independence, or the fun fact that Benjamin Franklin used to air dry naked in his window. But I know it as the home of the recipe nobody from Philly can agree on. Cheesesteaks. It'd be people living in a 1-mile radius arguing about the right way to make one. So let me set the record straight as someone who has been to Philly twice, and one of those times I didn't leave the airport. You're all wrong. Today on Poor Choices, we're making cheesesteaks my way, which supersedes all other recipes. We're also throwing in some Old Bay fries to fuel our bodies because another fun thing about Philly is they love to fight, which now, Rocky, makes a lot more sense. Starting out, let's talk meat. We need shaved meat. I know a lot of videos say get you a sharp knife and cut thinly, but even that is too thick, as I learned from when I did a sliders video for cheesesteak. It's good, but it can be better. I want that cheesesteak to be tender and juicy, which brings me to the meat slicer. Now, before you go clicking away because you don't have one, don't worry. Most supermarkets sell already shaved beef for cheesesteaks, but you can also ask the butcher behind the counter if they can shave some ribeye for you. Yes, if you see a deli slicer somewhere behind that counter, that means they should be able to do it, and it is always a good idea to become friends with a butcher. So don't be afraid, they're not mean. So I've got this Bestwood deli slicer here that I'm using today, and I'll be cutting both my meat and onions on this because it's there for all of that. You can also slice up bacon or even homemade bread if you want uniform thickness. The deli slicer isn't just limited to meat. They have these settings on them for thickness, and it's always a good idea to do a few test slices to dial your desired thickness in. For the onions, I'm going to go at about a 1 to a 1.5, and for the ribeye, I'm going to be anywhere between a 0.5 and a 1. I'll link a chart down in the description that's been helpful for me determining thicknesses if you are interested in getting a deli slicer. Just know they're a little annoying to clean, but very fun to use. Speaking of ribeye, I've got a little over half a pound of ribeye here. You could make 2 cheesesteaks out of this, which was my original plan, but then I ended up just putting this all into one because it just looked way cooler for the finished product shots. So I'm gonna pop this ribeye into the freezer for about 30 to 45 minutes. We want this to firm up so it becomes easier to slice. So set a timer and hang out for a bit. Maybe sip some beer like this Lagunitas, which is today's poor choice because when I visited Philly earlier this year, I had a lot of beer and a lot of cheesesteaks. Every version of cheesesteak, I had it. I pretty much became a cheesesteak. You can also use this time to cut your onions up. I'm just having mine and then running them through the slicer. This is just a yellow onion here. And you could dice these up or really just make them however you want. I like the thin strip kind because it almost just melts into the cheesesteak. Optional things you can add are obviously bell peppers or mushrooms. Get those cut up and set aside because our ribeye is ready to slice. Again, you can use a very sharp knife to do this, but you're going to notice a world of difference if you shave it properly. Trust me. So get that ribeye on your slicer and go to work. If your ribeye starts warming up and getting soft and hard to slice, don't be afraid to pop it back in the freezer to firm it back up for a little bit. You want to get as much of it sliced up as you can. Set that aside while we get our fries prepped because after this, everything happens in like under 10 minutes. So for the Old Bay fries, it is really simple. I've got some frozen plain French fries that I'll first toss in some peanut oil. And of course, if you're allergic to peanuts, you can always use a canola oil or grapeseed oil. The amount of fries is really however much you want to eat. Coat the fries first with the oil and then add in a couple tablespoons of Old Bay seasoning, tossing to coat evenly, and then you can either pop these into the air fryer at 360 degrees for about 12 to 14 minutes or bake in the oven at 425 for 22 minutes. Honestly, the bag will give you the instructions on it. And if I weren't filming a video for this and didn't have to move all these cameras and lights around 30 different places all by myself, I probably honestly would have made some homemade fries from scratch. But as simple as these fries are, they are extremely delicious and underrated. Now for the fun part. I'm using this electric griddle today by Presto, which interestingly doesn't belong to me. I actually don't know who owns this griddle, but I've had it for about 7 years now and no one has claimed it. Seriously, I don't even know how it ended up in my possession, but I've moved like to 2 different houses with it. A better option would be a cast iron pan or a cast iron griddle like this large cast iron griddle. And you just pop this over your stove and yes, it works for both gas and electric. The griddle allows you to work on a larger surface area, and a cast iron one would be even better if you're using metal tools like I am, because it's suggested to not use metal on the surface of electric griddles to protect their non-stick surfaces. But because I don't actually own this electric griddle, I'm going to abuse it. So I've got it set to around 400 degrees. I'm not going ripping hot today because I don't want to run the risk of overcooking this thinly shaved ribeye. If you want to get that good crust, by all means heat it up, but just know that you're risking drying your meat out. So I'm going down first with some bacon fat. Yes, bacon fat. No, they don't do that in Philly, but I do it here. If you don't have bacon fat, you can use some of the oil that you used earlier for the fries, but bacon fat is a missed flavor opportunity. Once it's melted, get your onions and whatever vegetables down and let them start to soften. Hit them with a little salt, let them get a little brown, and then just set them to the side. Next up is the steak, and I've done a couple versions of this process, and this is the one that I like the most. So get you more bacon fat down and then a good heaping amount of steak. Hit it with some Worcestershire sauce for amazing umami flavor. Yeah, they don't use that either in Philly, but this is California, Delphia. Get it spread out and then let it cook for like a minute before doing anything to it, and that includes seasoning it. When I did a version that is seasoned immediately versus a version where I waited to season, I found that waiting to season gave me a super juicy, almost dripping kind of steak, which I like. Salt draws moisture out of meats, which explains why the early season one was just not as juicy. And for the seasoning, I'm going with this Killer Hogs AP Rub. It is just an all-purpose rub of salt, pepper, and garlic. You can use any all-purpose rub, you can make your own, or you can keep it simple with just salt and pepper. But salt is your friend here. Once you've noticed the pinkness of the meat starting to disappear, get your onions mixed in. Then hit it with that seasoning and begin flipping it and chopping it. When you see there's no pink, it's time to get the cheese on. And today I'm going with white American cheese. Yes, I have done cheese sauce, and yes, I've done provolone. I personally love white American because it melts fantastically and it has a lot of flavor. It is the best of both worlds. Go argue with your mom about whether it's cheese sauce or provolone. I will be here having a good time. Get your cheese on top of the meat for just a second, and then we're going to flip the entire pile over, letting that cheese not only melt faster because it's up against the griddle, but the meat juices kind of get caught in it. Once you've got some good melting action happening, mix it up just a little because we're going to flip this back over, and I kind of mostly want that cheese on top, but still incorporated. And this also just might be a personal preference, but I liked it just a little bit mixed in, but mostly on top. Get it off the grill and into some bread. Now I'm using these banh mi hoagie rolls today, which have the perfect soft inside to soak in that juice and a crispy exterior. I think Philadelphia has their own roll, but you know, us and the other parts of the US don't always have access to that. Just kind of like in New Orleans, they have their own type of bread for their po' boys. We just have to make do. So as long as you find yourself a good quality hoagie roll or just something that's soft on the inside and crispy on the outside, you are on the right path. And we're not toasting here because again, I want that bread on the inside to be nice and soft so it can soak up all that heart attack. Get your spatula underneath the pile and flip it over right into your bread like you're putting mortar on bricks. And of course, when I'm on my other griddle, I'm such a pro, but for some reason I just could not get it right on this electric griddle. Go figure, right? Total time for cooking the meat was like 5 minutes, so just keep that in mind when you're doing these steps. I'd hate for you to overcook this and it be dry, and then you sound like me for the last 10 years. Cheesesteaks aren't any good. Oh, they're delicious. We just don't get to have them the right way. And that's it. Plate everything together. I did make a little cheese sauce for the fries. That was just a simple milk, white American cheese, and Old Bay seasoning. I'll put those measurements down in the description. I just didn't want this cheese to go to waste after this recipe, and it was nice to dip the fries in. Hey everybody, this is Poor Choices Kitchen. We have a Patreon link down in the description. $1 a month is all we ask for to pay for recipes in these here inflated times, although you can change your donation on Patreon to be any number you want. And we also have YouTube memberships. That is $2.99 because YouTube likes to take its cut, and that also goes to paying for recipes in these here inflated times. You know I should get one day? A cameraman. That would really help me out doing these recipes, having someone actually pay attention to the camera instead of me just guessing that I'm getting the right shots in. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I am a new believer in Philly cheesesteaks. For the longest time, I did not like them because every time I had them, they were dry, but I realized I was just having them the wrong way. And I'm not gonna sit here and say that you can only get good cheesesteaks in Philly. It's funny, a lot of people in Philly say the best cheesesteaks come from outside of Philly. And of course, diehard Philly people will say that the best cheesesteaks come from within the city. I don't know. Again, they're all arguing with one another and they all live within a block, so go figure. At the end of the day, you wanna make the cheesesteak the best way that you want it, which coincidentally is my way. So enjoy, and I'll see you next time.